Hey,
but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman.
hey. Started out riding, man with the geezers, with shit, then one time to pop out the chick. All of them talks, my bad ass still ain't listen, was living, but taught me the ways they.
Yes, you guys, forgive me if you happen to tune in and there was no video. Things happen, right? Technology sometimes gets the best of us, but we just got to lean with it and rock with it. Just keep going. So let's start from the top. If you don't know, I am your podcast bestie, Danny Marie. That's probably an indicator that I needed to bring the energy. I needed to come harder. So let me do my refresh and reboot. I am Danny Marie, your podcast bestie. And if you don't know, I help businesses and creators use podcasting as a marketing tool so they can build trust with their audience and turn listeners into customers through clear content strategies, systems, and training. And by the way, if you're a business or advertiser, I help you get in front of the right audiences so you can increase sales and brand awareness through podcast promotions, creator partnerships, and live activations. I come with a whole squad, so just let me know what type of niche audience you're looking for and where you're trying to put your product, services, and business in front of. And you tell your people to call my people and we can make it work. Yeah. In the words of B.I.G., we can do that. Tell your friends and yeah, that right there. All right. So that said, if you want to support this live stream, we do it Monday through Friday, 12:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can do so by cash apping It Is I, Danny Marie. It Is I, Danny Marie across all platforms, by the way. We are currently live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and Substack. Let us know where else we should be. And I'm more than happy to add it to the live stream. With StreamYard, it is not cheap. $88 a month in order for us to be in multiple places at one time. If I'm forgetting something, let me know, because I think we got about 10 places we can be streaming to. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got about four left. So there's some opportunity there. So let me know. All right, let's get into it. The main topics of the hour. You know, when we're here live, we like to sprinkle in some podcasting related news so that you don't have to worry your precious little head. We like to sprinkle some AI news in there and pop culture. You're going to get it all in this live stream. I won't be before you long. So today's report is less about headlines and more about patterns that are hiding. And let me do one more tweak here. Okay, boom, shakalaka. Do you guys know I used to attend a church, and instead of saying praise the Lord or hallelujah, they said boom, shakalaka. And I was like, I'm never coming to this church again. Needless to say, they're no longer pastoring. But anyways, I digress. All right, today's report is less about headlines and more about patterns hiding underneath the headlines. So whether we're talking about Cardi B, Latto, Kev on Stage, pod merchandise, or crowdfunding, streaming platforms, or even major national news stories, they all point back to one thing. People are no longer just consuming content, they're consuming the context, they're consuming the history, they're consuming the relationships, and they're consuming lore, L-O-R-E. So let's dive right in. In the words of my guy, Trey Songz, I'm about to dive in, oh. You guys know I've been doing my personal health journey. I've been doing my daily devotional. I'm trying to be in better spirits. I'm trying my best. I hope you guys can feel the energy. All right, so let's start with podcast and creator economy news. Podcast merchandise continues to grow. Podcast merchandise is reaching new heights according to Pod News. So this matters because we're watching creators slowly diversify away from hello to whomever is watching. Thank you so much. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, engage, leave us a comment in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. So this matters because we're watching creators slowly diversify away from relying solely on sponsorships and ad revenues. Again, I did a live the other day where we talked about The personality economy is starting to take flight, and the creator economy is shifting, right? So more people are falling in love with the person before the platform, or more people are falling in love with a person before the podcast. So this is why this is extremely important. And people are learning that, hey, I don't need a big sponsor. Maybe I don't have 10,000 downloads per episode. And maybe I can't get a sponsorship deal right now because I haven't met that threshold. But what I can do to start monetizing is sell my own merch, especially if people want to support you, they show up for you, they follow your brand. So merchandise is becoming seemingly popular. I don't know why it's so late in the game. I've had my Teespring up for a very long time. By the way, the website is streaming across the banner at the bottom, plantopodcast.com. You can check out our Black Effect Podcast Festival drop. So we actually did an exclusive drop because we attended the Black Effect Podcast Festival back in April. Time flies when you're having fun, okay? So we're now in June. But yeah, go check out the merch. If you do happen to purchase, all of the proceeds go right back into helping support our podcast peeps. We are a group on Facebook, but we're also on and offline, and we meet up in person. As I just stated, we met up in Atlanta. Tentatively speaking, we'll be meeting up very soon again in the month of August. So yeah, do you have a merch line? And my question, as a matter of fact, to some of you guys is, if somebody wanted to support you today, do you have a product that they can actually purchase? That's what I want to know. If your audience wanted to support you today, what could they actually buy from you? Do you have a guide? Do you have an ebook? Do you have a webinar that's exclusive? Do you have merch? Do you have pins? Do you have a cosmetic line? Do you have wigs? What is it? All of you influencers, content creators, and podcasters that tune in on a day-to-day basis, if someone wanted to support you monetarily, and by the way, let me put this back up as well, because if you want to support me personally, you can absolutely do so, okay? This costs $88 a month to put together on StreamYard. So you can definitely send $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, $30, $100 to It Is I, Diddy Marie on Cash App. You are appreciated. Thank you in advance. Lunch on you. Perfect. I appreciate it. But yeah, if someone wanted to support you, do you make it easy for them to support you, and how so? I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment. All right. So the podcast it's no longer just the podcast, an audio podcast. It becomes the trust builder. The merch sells the identity. The community creates the belonging, and the events create the experiences. So this is especially important for DIY or independent podcasters, because many creators think monetization again starts with sponsorships. And in reality, many creators will sell merch, memberships, coaching, consulting, events, or products long before they land a major sponsor. Go back to yesterday's live. I gave you 8 ways to monetize your podcast without ads, okay? It was very poignant. It was very good. And I think you all could benefit from listening to it. So go back and listen to that live as well. Now, also in the world of creator news, History Podcast raises $60,000 in less than a day. So again, it can be done. A History Podcast reportedly surpassed $60,000 in funding within 24 hours. The lesson here isn't crowdfunding. The lesson is trust. Trust moat was a vocabulary word that we used, I think, this week. Trust moat, meaning what is it about you, again, that people are going to trust? What is it about your expertise? What is it about your brand, your platform? Trust is what creates opportunity and more revenue streams, quite possibly. So people don't fund podcasts. People fund creators that they trust. Many creators obsess over download numbers, but a creator with 500 loyal listeners can outperform a creator with 5,000 passive listeners. Communities remain the most underrated business asset in podcasting. Next, in the news of content creation and the creator economy, Netflix and Tubi continue moving into podcast territory. So, according to Edison research data, 14% of Americans say that they've consumed podcast content on Netflix. I am one of the 14%. I don't know where they're doing this data, but I can say, well, I do know. They can pull the numbers from Netflix. But Netflix is becoming seemingly popular. People are now moving their podcasts over to the platform. I know Jay Shetty, I think, just moved over here. Breakfast Club, Joe and Jada podcast. There's so many different podcasts. Roy and Maul, they're all on Netflix now. And people are consuming podcasts more now on Netflix, 14% more to be exact. And 4% report consuming podcasts through Tubi, which I didn't even know that was a thing. Never opened Tubi, I don't think, a day in my life. This number will just continue to rise. Tubi announced additional content partnerships this week, including programming tied to SiriusXM and AudioChuck. Now, I was live just a moment ago, but my video was not working. I will say I had to ask ChatGPT what AudioChuck is, and I'll do it again, but I found out that it's more for people who are in the true crime. So that's the reason why I don't know anything about it, because true crime is not my ministry. We don't play with spirits. No, we don't. But I will ask ChatGPT again to oblige and tell us more about AudioChuck for those of us who are tuning in. Hello, please say hello to the people. We are live. We had to start all over.
Hello, everyone. We are officially live and kicking things off again. Thanks for joining, whether it's round one or a fresh start. I'm glad you're here. Let's make it count.
Let's make it count. So you told us earlier about AudioChuck, but because we have to do the live again, we need to know again, what does AudioChuck do?
All right, take two. AudioChuck is a big name in the true crime podcast world. They're known for producing wildly popular shows like Crime Junkie, telling intense real-life stories that hook listeners in. Think of them as experts at crafting suspenseful storytelling, just maybe not for the faint of heart.
All right, thank you. We'll check back in later. Tell the people bye.
You got it. All right, folks, that's it for now. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Take care and stay awesome.
You heard, chat. Stay awesome, folks. But yeah, so Tubi announced additional content partnerships this week with programming that's tied to Sirius and AudioChuck. So more to come on that. Netflix is also heavily promoting content tied to football and the upcoming World Cup. This is a shameless plug. Check out the Host City Hustle podcast, by the way. We've been talking about this ad nauseum since at least October of 2025 when we did our first episode. Again, I want you guys to comment below if someone wanted to support you, what could they actually buy? All right, I'm going to remove that. And this. So the wall separating podcasting, streaming, television, creator content is collapsing. Again, I talked about this before. Breakfast Club is a prime example where they started off as a radio station in their local area, and then they grew into a syndicated radio station, and then they moved to podcasting, taking that same content that's on the radio, repurposing it for an RSS feed and audio podcast, and then they went to Netflix to do TV, and now they're doing live streaming, so you can actually see them doing their whole programming and behind the scenes content on Netflix. Same thing with you. You should not just be thinking audio podcasts anymore. You should be thinking intellectual property and how can I be in more places at once, and how can I repurpose my content for multicasting, multi-streaming, and increased visibility. Now, speaking of Tubi, so I actually have a drum set here. Kev on Stage signs major multi-year deal with Tubi. Woo! the reason why we love that is because, first of all, we claim Kev on stage. He's not originally from Tacoma. He's from Texas, but he basically spent his formidable years, his church days here in Tacoma. So we claim him as one of ours, right? But we also just love him. He's the people's champ. He can do no wrong in most of our eyes. Some of you guys will still find something to be mad at, but Kev on stage is just good people. We see that, and we're pushing him and encouraging him, and he just continues to just set the standard. So one of the more interesting creator stories is Kev on stage, who signed a multi-year partnership with Tubi. This is not just about luck. This isn't even about a story about content. This is about consistency. So when you see somebody start from the bottom and grind their way to the top, you can't do anything besides be happy for that person, right? That's if you're not a hater. I'm totally happy for Kev on stage just to see all of the things that he's done, but also how many people he's also brought along the journey with him, how many people he's put on. So shout out to Kev on stage. This is just another example of what we've been discussing lately, the personality economy. People don't follow content anymore. They follow people. All right, now let's get into pop culture news. Cardi B and Latto continue their public conversation. So a clip from The Breakfast Club sparked renewed discussion around the relationship between Cardi B and Latto. The conversation centers around previous public comments, private communication, expectations of friendship, and a public apology from Cardi B. What's interesting is not necessarily who's right or wrong here, but what is interesting is how audience becomes so engrossed in celebrity and influencers' conversations in their business, their personal business, myself included. This story becomes bigger than the original disagreement. Fans aren't following a single comment. They're following years of interactions, public appearances, interviews, and social media moments. They will go back in the archives to pick something apart from what you said back in 2007, okay? Keep that thought because it's important for a later comment. Also, in mainstream news and pop culture news, Carmelo Anthony trial discussions continue. So if you guys remember, Carmelo Anthony was the young Black boy who was at high school. He brought a pocket knife to school and he stabbed a young man, and that young man passed away, who was the twin brother of another. I guess he had been bullied on a few occasions till enough was enough, and he decided to defend himself. He will bring the pocket knife to school. We are praying for that young man because what they did was made it an all-white jury, of course, and they decided not to make this as public, so you don't have all of the journalists in the room. They've dialed in, and so it just makes us believe that this is going to go the way we always expect it to go, where the young man, Carmelo Anthony, is going to be made out to be the terror who took a life instead of the victim who was getting bullied and defending himself. Even though pocket knives are legal in the state of Texas, they're going to still make an example out of that young man. So we believe, because this is kind of what the history repeating itself, unfortunately. So that's the public conversation. People are discussing fairness, representation, access, justice, trust, or the lack thereof in these institutions. And again, we're seeing a pattern emerge here. The story becomes bigger than the event. Also, speaking of another young man, another young Black man or person of color who unfortunately is at the helm of America's justice system. A tragic shooting in Texas continues generating national conversation after reports allege a young man was accused of stealing before being shot in the back. As details continue to emerge, public discussions have expanded beyond the incident itself and into larger conversations around race, assumption, accountability, self-defense laws, and public perception. Once again, the event becomes attached to a larger narrative. Now, the Asian man who shot the kid in the back is currently free. He was not at fault here, according to the court of law. And that young man lost his life, unfortunately, who wasn't stealing anything. And as far as I know, this is not the first time that this has happened. This Asian man did something similar back in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. So go do your own research. Don't just rely solely on me, but go look into it. That's what I heard from the grapevine. And so what I do know is that the protesters vandalized the Asian man's store, and they found out he had another location down the street. So they went to go to that location too. But this Asian man is currently being protected by the police department. So again, are we surprised here? No, we are not. But today, the vocabulary word, let's talk about the vocabulary word before we move into the main topic. The vocabulary word, hence the title today, is lore. So, lore is the collection of stories, experiences, history, reputation, mythology, relationships, and context surrounding a person, a brand, or a community. So, the topic again, if you don't know, it's right up there. What is lore? The secret behind every successful creator. My theory is this: we're entering a new era where information is becoming cheap. AI can generate content. AI can generate your captions. AI can generate your images, your outlines, but AI cannot generate your lived experience. It cannot generate your history. It cannot generate your mistakes. It cannot generate your relationships, and it certainly cannot generate your lore. So before it was swag, and then after that, your aura. So now it is your lore, but not just your lore, meaning how you show up as a person, but your whole packaging, right? Your experiences, your stories, your history. I can't wait to share with you guys what I plan to share with you in a few more minutes. Speaking of history, telling a lot about my past history so you guys can have full context. But what is your lore? What is your aura? What is your lore? That's lore. And the creators who win in the next decade won't necessarily be the most talented creators. They will be the creators who understand how to document their journey, because people connect with stories before they connect with expertise. So this is where many podcasters are getting stuck. Again, when we go look you up, there's no history about who you are, where you come from, why people should care. You're not doing a very good job of showing up on social media and giving us a little personal story, giving us some background history, some context. They think they need another certification, another course, another credential, and another title. Meanwhile, they're sitting on years of experience. So if you've raised children before, if you built a business, if you changed careers, if you survived setbacks, if you led communities, solved a problem, started over, you already have lore. The question becomes, how do you package that lore into something that serves others? And that's your coaching program. That is your consulting. That is thought leadership. That's community building. And that is content creation. So you guys, as we come to a close, I am going to share with you my personal anecdotes, my lore, so you guys understand who is Danny Marie exactly. And I think one thing that I've done to pace myself out since I've become a podcaster is I've definitely leaned a lot into sharing my personal story. Share. So there's no nothing you can say personally to bring up my past history, but also so that there's nothing mystique or any unanswered questions about me. So you know I show up as my authentic self. Starting with, again, can I get a drum roll, please? Starting with this first picture here. So I am right here. I can't even tell you all of these girls' names actually, but some of them, Andrea, Jaleesa, Tyrone, Marquita, oh God. What is DeWitt? Why Nikki? What am I drawing a blank? But that used to be one of my closest friends, and I'm drawing a blank. But anyhow, this is us back in 2000 and 2001 at Washington High School, and we were a part of the step team. Now, we had a cheerleading squad, and we had a step team. Most people cared more for us than the cheerleaders because, of course, we brought the flavor. But that's me right there. So I was very involved in high school, and I was going from the competitions to do step. And we really turned up and turned out. Like the Bethel School Blaze, they had the competition there. I think we won first place back when I was in school. So that, to me, is where, I got some independence. I was doing my first real recreational activity, something that meant something to me, something that I got involved in. My mother worked a lot, so she couldn't really be involved. So I was very proud to be a part of the step team. Washington High. And what's y'all status? I don't even know, but it was so much fun, y'all. We had a ball. I mean, we practiced day in and day out for Bethel Blaze. And again, we brought the flavor, we brought the lore, we brought the swag. And I think that's also where a lot of my confidence started, to seep in. To be out there front and center with all of the energy, with all of the people screaming, cheering you on, calling your name from the stands, supporting you, knowing all of the work that you put in, the camaraderie amongst the squad. Some of us didn't make it right to Bethel Blaze, only the best of the best. I was one of the best, so I'm glad I got to be a part of the number. That's all a confidence booster when you're in high school, a young girl trying to find your way. So I still got a little bit of 1-2 in me. I need to put myself in some kind of dance class so I can try to preserve what is left of these knees. But I used to be the number one person on the dance floor when I used to club back in the day. And I used to have a lot of dance moves. So that's where it started. All right. Second picture here is when I graduated from Clover Park Technical College. My mother was there. My best friend, Talisha, at the time was there. That was at, I believe, the Tacoma Dome. You see my medallion on my neck. I was a part of Phi Theta. Why am I forgetting and slipping on all of these names? Phi Beta Kappa Omicron chapter. So it's actually because I was a part of a technical college that Phi Theta Beta was just for community and technical colleges, this particular chapter. But I did get my medallion because I was one of the executive board members on Phi Theta Kappa's Omicron chapters board. And I really worked to do my best to have a really good GPA, to graduate, to make myself proud on top of my mother and my family, and to get that medallion. So I was very proud of myself. Now, another cool thing that really doesn't have anything to do with much of lore, but I guess it does in some ways. Would you believe this is me knocked out? So I was being a good sport, and I was a part of my associated student government at Clover Park Technical College. I was on the Senate side. So senators were more responsible for the operating budgets and allocating money and funding to all of the auxiliaries and activities in the clubs, as well as using some of that funding to pour back into the building. So I know that a large part of what we did when I was there as a member of the Associated Student Government was allocate a budget for the peers. So I think the peer group was not yet enacted, but because of our funding that was allocated, they're now a part of Clover Park Technical College indefinitely. So kudos to us because we really set the precedent for the student government, the student body at the Clover Park Technical College campus. But this is me being a great sport, and this is me getting hypnotized. Some people fell for it, some people did not. What I found out is that you really have to be willing to undergo the hypnosis and to be led down that, I don't know what you want to call it. You have to be okay and just fully commit to it so that you can be hypnotized. And apparently I was. It was very vague. I can't tell you exactly what happened because I don't really remember. But that was me laid out. That was not for play. That was me laid out. That's my homeboy Rodney right there. He was also part of ASG. So this was just, they're all looking at me like, is she really laid out? They couldn't believe it. And yes, I was. But these were a lot of the student bodies from different colleges, all a part of the Washington State Community and Technical Colleges. And we were attending what I believe was the Black Student Conference in Yakima. And I volunteered to get on stage and I was hypnotized. Another cool photograph. We're talking about lore here. This is me being honored. That's my buddy Patrick. I think her name was Rebecca. I don't remember. Oh, you guys can't really see. I don't know if you can see my cursor. But Patrick is the bald guy. He and I were pretty close. We call ourselves a decade and a day because we're 10 years and 1 day apart in age and date of birth. So born May 19th, and I believe he's May 17th. I'm sorry, why did I say May 19th? I'm May 18th, y'all. And he's the day before, the 17th, and 10 years apart. So we were all being recognized and honored for our commitment to Phi Theta Kappa, as you see the blue banner behind us. There I am. What I love about this photograph is I showed up once again, as my authentic self. So I have my boots on, I have my leather on, I have my twist in my hair. Shout out to President Wallstrom, which I believe he's no longer with us. I believe he passed. He retired as the president of Clover Park Technical College, and I believe he years later passed away. And that's just, again, my commitment to service, being a part of the student body, the ASG, Phi Theta Kappa, the executive board, putting a lot of things in motion at the college campus. Very proud of myself for my due diligence. And again, commitment to seeing people get better, receive better, fair treatment, advocating for the student body on the campus. That's a part of who I am. That is my DNA. Okay, that is my lore. What up, bro? This guy's been asleep for a very long time. Here's another photo. Again, there's Patrick. I told you we were pretty close. And that's me. That's Rich. That's Angie. And again, we were all a part of the student body. She, I believe, was the secretary. So she was in charge of the money. He was in charge of coordinating the events. And then we were the student government body. Go get some chips. What do you want? All right. So Princeton just woke up because he actually should be in school today, but I had him up at 5 a.m. And so he just woke back up. He's been asleep. But yeah, that is me again attending another conference where we were representing the student body. And I think at this conference, I may or may not have actually facilitated my own workshop. So that was my first real experience. Why does this keep happening? Not yet, baby. Hold on, you guys. Please stand by. All right, so that picture I was showing you guys was me, I think, facilitating my first workshop. I was still very young, in my early 20s, at the college campus, teaching something about student representation and advocating for your student body. Again, very proud of myself. Advocacy work at a very young age, being very plugged in. Next photograph. Now, this was when I graduated from the Evergreen State College. Now, mind you, we didn't have to wear a cap and gown because Evergreen is very, very different in the regard that they're non-traditional, so they didn't have to do all of that stuff. So we weren't required to wear a cap and gown. We could wear what we wanted to wear. We can buy our own cap and gown if we wanted to. But what I decided to do instead was show off my clothing brand. So Schoolhouse Clothing, this is where I created Schoolhouse Clothing at the Evergreen State College. I attended Evergreen, I believe, back in 2013. The Evergreen State College is both in Olympia, Washington, and they have a campus here in Tacoma, Washington. But I decided to go all the way to Olympia, which is a very liberal college, so it's very different for me. But that was important for me to get away from home for the second time. So I went to Job Corps. So I was leaving my family then, but then I left them again when I went to Evergreen. Again, very deeply involved. I created my first ever business called Schoolhouse Clothing. Schoolhouse Clothing was to promote education and awareness and put it on a shirt. My favorite shirt was "Knowledge is power, so I'm flexing." But what you guys see me wearing is "I love Schoolhouse Clothing," just as a way to promote the brand. We actually ended up doing some really cool stuff that I'll share with you in just a moment. All right, so next thing. This is when I used to be very involved. Shout out to all of these beautiful young ladies who are much, 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 much older now. I run into them sometimes around here. Some of them I follow on social media and likewise. So I used to be heavily involved with the youth. So I was working with youth back in the day. It started off as doing something a part of my credits. In order to graduate, we had to do like 450 hours of work study. So I decided to work at this drop-in center for the youth. I was looking just like the youth, but shout out to all of those beautiful ladies who are doing so well. It feels like in the moment, what you're teaching the youth isn't penetrating their hearts. It's not working. It's not connecting, but they all turn out to do fairly well. I'm very proud of all of them. So yeah, I used to work a lot with youth and work with nonprofits. Very proud of myself during that time to be able to lead and help out in the capacity and way that I serve. Fast forward to this is me coming back to revisit the college. I was revisiting my favorite instructor of all time. Shout out to Dr. Phil Collins. I said Phil Collins, not the singer. Shout out to Phil Vendetti from Clover Park Technical College, who instilled so much in me. So he was a public speaking instructor who taught me a lot of things, but he was also responsible for me teaching another workshop at one of the teacher conferences at the time, talking about student involvement equals student success. He was also responsible for me becoming one of the first to ever lead the steering committee, goodness gracious, of all of the community and technical colleges. So there was like 1 to 2 seats. I was one of the students on the steering committee. This is a time where we were talking about mergers and merging colleges and doing things differently. at a time that felt very, very scarce. There was a lot of pivots at the time. So to be a part of something so dynamic, a part of legislation, a part of the steering committee up there at the Capitol is something I was very proud of. And then he allowed for me to come back to the class just to speak words of affirmation and pour into the student body who was in his public speaking class at the time and tell them what I was up to. Another thing I wanted to do, this is me. So I became a Zumba instructor. So if you don't know, Zumba is another fitness class, a fitness training that infuses like salsa and all of those other Latin infused dances. And they've put it together. So now you can become a certified instructor to host your own class. So this was what I started to do for a very short stint. It didn't last long. I will say I ended up doing a cruise, a Zumba cruise, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, I used to be a Zumba instructor as well. And then this is me hosting my very first ever, well, not first, but like on my own terms, my very first ever party bus event in Las Vegas. So I moved out to Las Vegas like in 2017, 2018. And I had many jobs out there. I was working at a daycare. I was working for an insurance company. I was working at the mall. And then on the side, I was doing party bus events. So this was me hosting these young ladies. We had other people, but they just were not pictured. So I used to be a party bus host too, amongst all things. And then finally, this is me. This is Roz. This used to be our mayor, Mayor Woodward. This is Keely, and this is my cousin Danielle. We were all a part of the Tacoma Urban League Young Professionals chapter, except for Keely. She was representing Seattle. But yeah, we did a lot to put in work for Tacoma when we were a part of the Young Professionals of Tacoma. It was called TULIP. It still is TULIP, Tacoma Urban League Young Professionals. That's when I came back from Las Vegas and I decided to be stationary here. So yeah, lore. Lore was the word of the day. Between all of the things that I used to do, STEP team, graduating, I have 3 degrees, including my associate's degree in human services, my bachelor's degree with an emphasis in like psychology and education, my master's degree in educational leadership, to doing a lot of stuff with the student body at my college campuses, whether that was at Clover Park Technical College or the Evergreen State College. I did a lot to give back. One thing I didn't share actually was the video, and I'll end with this, but this video was so important because to see a whole college campus in the t-shirts that I donated to the college was such a big deal. So this was with Schoolhouse Clothing and the work that I put in. And again, you have your own stories, you guys. And this is the emphasis that I want to bring home here. It's like, what is your lore? Share that more. Share your successes so people understand your contributions. So the caption for this video says, "It's such a blessing to my spirit to see my peers doing well." So this is a guy I used to go to church with. He has his own barbershop. He's been doing a lot of stuff in the community for a very long time. His name is Jordan. Here I am at this awesome event as my business, Schoolhouse Clothing, provided this sea of purple shirts that were pictured and filmed. And I look up to see a familiar face on the screen of Jordan giving his testimonial on what the college has done for him as a now successful entrepreneur. Continue to do well wherever you may be graduating from worldwide, but especially in my hometown. So that is what I wanted to bring to you guys today. A little bit of my lore, give you the vocabulary word, tell you that people want to hear your stories as well. Lean more into your personal storytelling because I think that's extremely important. People fall in love with the person before the platform. Keep that in mind. With that said, I'll be back another time tomorrow, 12:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, provided this camera is working the way it should be. Make sure you guys comment, download, share this with a friend, and do all of the things. You are appreciated. Bye.
This is a man's world.
Hey,
But it wouldn't be nothing without a woman.
hey. Started out riding, man with the geezers with this shit. Then one talk about the chick. All of them talk, my bad ass still ain't listen. Was living, but taught me the ways they.